Hi there, everyone. Today on Locked On Canadiens, we will be talking about the press conference that Kent Hughes held alongside Vincent Lecavalier on Monday. We are going to be talking about the Montreal Canadiens teaming up with Team 33, a new scouting service, and what that means, not just for the Canadiens, but around the league as well. Maybe there's a little bit more clarity on the Jeff Petry dossier, and that's all coming up on Locked On Canadiens.
For Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 651 of Locked On Canadiens. We had promised you a very special guest, but due to literally immovable circumstances, our guest was not able to make it for these two episodes that we were planning to record with him. So you're kind of stuck with us for our more pre-draft thoughts. We're going to be talking a little bit Kent Hughes press conference, the Jeff Petry situation, Team 33. But first, my name is Laura. I'm one of your hosts, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined by Scott Matla, who 2 days from now will be covering the draft in person for Eyes on the Prize. Scott, how are you doing on this fine to Tuesday evening?
If any of my fellow coworkers or bosses or anyone of importance is listening to this, I'm sorry that I've been mailing it in all week, but the clock ticked over into Monday and I'm like, I am so close to getting to Montreal for the draft. I am going to AEW on Wednesday night and I am very excited. I get to go watch professional wrestling. I get to watch dudes go through tables, and then I get to go to the NHL draft and put on a suit and be civilized and not scream in bloodlust at things. I am very, very excited. We do regret that we weren't able to have our guest on, but he did promise that post-draft to help us break it all down. He will be around. And I didn't realize this until it came up. The Canadiens development camp is literally next week as well, in addition to NHL free agency. So we have so much content coming up before we shift to our off-season mode, and we cannot wait to bring that all to you.
It is super, super exciting. And again, our guest sent he felt really bad. And that's what made me feel bad. I didn't want him to feel bad. But he did promise us we would get his best. We always get his best, though. That's the thing. He always brings it. And I'm so, so excited for whenever we have him on to break down what the Canadiens did in the draft. Speaking of what the Canadiens did in the draft, on Monday, Kent Hughes and Vincent Lecavalier held a press conference. And I really liked it because I knew it was going to be a lot of words that would provide little clarity, and that's exactly what happened. So there were some things that were clarified. One really, really important note was that they did get asked about Carey Price, and they said, not yet. As soon as there's any news, we'll do a press conference only dedicated to Carey Price. That made me laugh. But, when they were asked, are you trading that first overall pick, or are you going to draft somebody? And, as of that moment of the of the press conference, Kent Hughes said, it's to draft. We're not trading the first overall unless it really blows us away. And he was like, my job is not to make a legacy pick. It is to do what's best for the Montreal Canadiens going forward. And I understand the draft is in Montreal. It is the first overall pick. It is the first pick he makes as GM. It is the first pick of this front office. There's so many things that are riding on this, right? But for me, it's they can't afford to make a huge mistake. That's it. We know that this draft is not as deep as some of the ones that have come before and some of the ones that might be coming as soon as next year. We know that, right? Either way, they had said that they'd narrowed down their choice to one of three people, and he literally said the word "c'est trois attaquants." So it was three offensive players. So we know that Simon Nemec and David Jiricek are not in that conversation, but we knew that anyway because in all of the projections they're not higher than third. So we know it's Logan Cooley. They talked about he's playing against college players. They talked about they said, a player that plays against men. So we know that's Slafkovsky that they're talking about. And they talked about Shane Wright, and they talked a lot about Shane Wright because they were asked a lot about Shane Wright. Sorry, you were going to say something.
So as much as they talked about the three players, and I'm not a tinfoil hatty kind of person, but there's so much indication that they're picking Shane Wright. They haven't made a big fanfare about it. Vinny Lecavalier talked to Shane Wright personally about being a first overall pick, Vinny himself being a former one as well. Everything leads me to believe that they're picking Shane Wright. And at this point, I think Kent Hughes is really just having fun, which fair. Guy's a player agent. He knows how the media works. He knows how it is, to have everyone going, what are they going to do? Are they going to pick this guy? Are they going to pick this guy? And it's like, no, he's got the guy in mind. I know he says he's undecided, but why? He's not going to show his hand. That's rookie GMing 101 is to not let others know what you're thinking. Because then
not only that, he keeps saying that they're probably drafting, but he's not closing the door on trading that, right? So that he's still taking calls.
Ken Hughes, man of mystery. But he's playing it close to the vest, a thing that Mark Bergevin was famous for, perhaps almost too much. Ken Hughes is very forthcoming without it all. He's like a sphinx in that he's just full of riddles and nonsense that you got to kind of work your way through. But it just feels like they're taking Shane Wright at this point. Yeah, they talked about Logan Cooley. I like Logan Cooley a lot. I think Shane Wright is the player they need right now, but Logan Cooley is a good player. I don't have anything against Slavkovsky. Just everything lines up based on the noise and everything. You don't hear noise about Shane Wright. You hear noise about Slavkovsky, which tells me that it's people trying to drum up interest, whether that's coming from other teams or what. And Hughes isn't going to show his hand. He knows how this works. He's a rookie GM with years of experience as a high-profile player agent. This is not new to him. He knows how the other side of this coin works. And that's an underrated part of this, I think. And we don't know what's going on with 26th overall yet. We probably won't know until we get there and we see what happens on the draft board. But the biggest thing out of that press conference, besides some of the Jeff Petry stuff and the Carey Price stuff, which we get into later, is it just feels like Shane Wright's the pick at this point. No ifs, ands, or buts.
That was the thing, though, is that they kept insisting, right? We're going to talk to our scouts later this evening. We're going to talk about that. But I think what was really telling was what Vinny Lecavalier said. And this is interesting because we did get a mailbag question about it, which we will deal with whenever we resume our mailbag. There's a whole lot going on this couple of weeks. But one of them was talking about, pressure and how, like when people talk about character, usually they associate it with different things. But do scouts look at how a player is going to handle pressure in a market like Montreal? Do scouts look at how, certain players sort of thrive under the pressure and certain players have not? And I think it's really telling about how long Vinny Lecavalier spoke to Shane Wright. And the part for me that was huge was that it was almost like an afterthought where he was like, yeah, I'm going to talk to Logan Cooley and Slavkovsky too. It was kind of like an afterthought where I feel like he kind of felt obligated to throw that in there so that they don't tip the Canadiens' hand. And that's kind of how I saw it. And I might be wrong and they might be astounding us on Thursday night. It's really exciting. Speaking of Thursday night, please make sure you are tuned into Locked On Canadiens and Locked On NHL. We've got tons of stuff surrounding the draft. There's going to be so much content. There's going to be reactions to the picks. We're going to be doing, obviously a reaction to the first night overall, and then we're going to be breaking down the rest of the draft the following week. We've got so much stuff going on, so do not forget to stay tuned to us. And in our next segment, what we are going to talk about is the Montreal Canadiens are now teaming up with a new scouting service called Team 33, and we're going to talk about what that means and how the league is sort of moving forward. And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit Jeff Petry and Carey Price, and that's all coming up in just one moment. But first, BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. Well, the NHL playoffs are gone, but you can bet on the draft. That's a big thing that's coming up. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, so Scott, today came the news from, I think it was Marc-Antoine Gaudin, that the Montreal Canadiens are teaming up with a scouting service called Team 33. And it seems like it seems like really weird timing, like literally 2 days before the draft to be doing this, but I think this is an ongoing partnership. It's not just, it's not just a today thing. And it's kind of like, it's really interesting in that all of the teams around the league, because there were some prominent hires that were announced today as well, is that every team now, or most of the teams, are kind of looking for that little thing that just gives them a little bit of an edge over the other teams, right? Every team is doing that. Like, it's no longer just about big moves. It's about every little market inefficiency that you can exploit. So, Scott, you had some thoughts.
My biggest thing is I could not find a thing online about them yet, so I assume they are new, but I assume they have reputable names. I don't think the Canadians would just throw lot in with, a shady organization or anything like that. It's I don't know much about Team 33. I haven't had a chance to read the article in The Athletic yet. But based on what they've done this offseason, in the way Ken Hughes has talked about developing, Martin St. Louis has talked about development, Adam Nicholas being their development coach, hiring Marie-Philippe Poulin, the Montreal Canadiens are taking that next step into modernizing a team that it's very long overdue right now. And they're not the only team. We've seen it was Toronto promoted Haley Wickenheiser to assistant GM. And before anyone talks about qualifications, it's very hard to find someone who can match her hockey credentials. And she's a doctor, literally. Like, she's smarter than you and she's better at hockey than you. We're not going to go into credentials on this one. She's just better at it than you are. Save it. And the San Jose Sharks hired Mike Greer. He was the first Black general manager in NHL history. And the Coachella Firebirds, the AHL affiliate of the Seattle Kraken, have the first female to serve as a coach on their bench. They hired to be their assistant coach down there. Across the league today, this was a huge step forward after seeing like Rick Bowness get hired, John Tortorella get hired again, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen a lot of the old boys club and retreads get hired. And then you see teams that are trying to be progressive in what they want to do and change things are doing that. Montreal was very far behind in that, and they're taking those steps with their off-ice stuff. Now, I'm very interested to see what the scouting service has and what it's working on developing, especially with development camp right around the corner. And I do wonder if they help put together their scouting combines that they did, the private ones that were in Broussard a couple of weeks ago for European and for usually QMJHL prospects. And I wonder if they were a part of that in selecting people to come to that camp.
Right. So, okay. So here's the thing with the scouting service is essentially what it does is it assigns a number based on salary, age, ability, potential, all kinds of stuff to an NHL player. So it does kind of attempt to level the playing field a little bit like how our friend Byron Bader does on his website, right? It levels the playing field. It contextualizes where players play and who they're playing against. So you can kind of do a comparison depending, not all players are going to be playing in the NHL or AHL. You're going to see all over the place. So you can kind of sort of bring the value into the same language. This is kind of what Team 33 is doing. It's got like a former assistant GM, working in the NHL and all of that. So it's got a lot of new things. The thing I think with the Montreal Canadiens is that what they're trying to do, and this is what I really like about them, and it sort of started with the hiring of Martin St. Louis, is that they don't care about who. What they care about is how the person thinks, right? Or how the organization thinks. So like Martin St. Louis got hired based on his hockey ideas, right? Marie-Philippe Poulin got hired based on her strategy and her approach to the game. Like Team 33 is doing something new. So like, it's not like this is a name that everybody's used and this person has like worked in hockey and, everybody knows who they are and they used to be a player or they used to be a whatever. It's literally like, what is this new way of thinking? What is this new information? What are these new ideas and philosophies and strategies? And like, this is kind of like a way to quantify players a little bit, but it doesn't seem quite limited to just, numbers. It's literally, it goes with people going to games and scouting in person, as well as putting in all this information, including like, the salary and all of that. So like a really like a really high-end player will get assigned a number, and then there's like AHL level players that would get assigned a number, and you can be across that spectrum, right? So that like it brings the information together. So like, and the other thing is that Kent Hughes in his press conference with on Monday like used like Sport Logique, right? Like he said, he name dropped Sport Logique. So like, you know that they're using all the tools at their disposal. Like they might still have some old school people in the organization, and that's never wrong. Like I think it's just that if you're married to the old school style of hockey, or evaluating hockey, or coaching hockey, or developing hockey, then you're being left behind by all the other teams who are moving forward. So all these hires, Scott, that you just mentioned, they're like some really interesting, exciting moves for the future of the game. Like it really is. The game really is changing. And so like, I get the frustration of our fellow, Locked On hosts or our friends and other fan bases where they see all the other teams doing this forward thinking stuff. And they're like, well, my team still isn't doing that. And when you look at who was in the final this year, Tampa and Colorado, who won? Colorado. Like these are the teams that are like, I'm going to take every possible tool, even if it's modern, even if it's untried, and I'm going to see if it works for me. It took Colorado 5 years to get it right, but they still got it right. They kept pushing. They kept looking for things that worked until they were able to create that like perfect mix. And so that's what I hope the Montreal Canadiens do. Like they finished last in the league this season and everybody was still hopeful. Why? Because they had a fresh perspective. And that's what I feel like as well. And speaking of a fresh perspective, there is still some stuff in the past that the Canadiens are kind of gonna have to deal with, or not necessarily confront, but like they have to settle some issues in the coming year, or even in the coming off season, before they can move forward and like begin the rebuilding or the building process of the rebuild. And that's coming up in just one moment. Okay, so we've got Carey Price. We still don't know what's up with that. And we've got Jeff Petry, and we still don't know what's up with that. But the press conference was a little bit illuminating, was it not?
Yes, we also have breaking news.
What?
I'm kidding. The NHL has a new sports drink sponsor.
Oh my God, I swear I thought you were going to say that Jeff Petry was traded as we were talking. Scott, you can't do this to me. That's mean.
I'm a bad person.
For a second.
I'm a bad person. I'm so sorry.
Not because I hate Jeff Petry. No, I was just happy that there was something going on.
If anyone wants to clip the me saying I'm a bad person part and send it to me in gift form, you're my best friend. But yes, we do have the Jeff Petry thing was interesting because there hasn't been like an actual like public declaration of this. But at the same time, Kent Hughes mentioned that they are going to accommodate Jeff Petry's request. And I don't know if that was a formal trade request or Jeff going, if you can, I'd like to be moved somewhere so I can be closer to my family, this and that, because of everything that happened this past year, or whatever reason it may be.
Oh, he gave the reason. It was because of the travel restrictions getting into Canada. So Jeff Petry's or Julie Petry's parents, either one, I don't know who, were not able to travel to see the Petrys. And basically you have a spouse that's traveling on the road and you've got 3 boys and you're pregnant with a 4th. And the boys are not like, they're not chill little children, right? They are exactly what I imagine parenting to be. That, like it was just rough on her. You're alone and you have 3 kids to deal with and they're very young and you're very tired and you can't have help because your parents or your in-laws cannot travel into the country that you're in. I totally understand that perspective. Now, I know a lot of people are like, there's an easy solution. I'm not here to like judge whatever, health or whatever reasons that the Petrys or whatever, the reasons that they're not able to come into Canada. The whole point was that they were not able to come into Canada. And you said, no, they love Montreal. Like from everything that I heard from Jeff Petry is that they're happy in the city. They're happy on the team. They love Montreal, blah, blah, blah. And then, he talked about how Jeff rededicated himself to the game. Like in the last third of the season, he really brought his best, he recommitted. But he said the one thing that he did say was that we're not just going to accommodate his request just for the sake of it. It has to make sense for our team. So I think that was really smart because when you are shopping a player, often you have less leverage in whatever negotiations that you have. But in this case, Kent Hughes is like, listen, I've got an asset, and he's still a serviceable defenseman. I mean, our friends at Locked On Red Wings did an episode on whether Jeff Petry belongs in Detroit. I think that's a great place for him, not just for his family situation, but that's a great situation for him on the team, right? But Kent Hughes said, like, you can call me on this guy, but if you're not offering what I want, I'm not going to make the trade. And that's the message, part of the message I got. Not necessarily just the part where, like, okay, they're going to accommodate, and the trade the trade request has not yet been rescinded. They're open to being traded if it's possible, or they want to be traded if it's possible, but that's still ongoing. But I think the most important thing, I'm getting really tired and I'm just repeating myself over again, but the most important thing that Ken Hughes said, and he's been saying all along, is that he's not just going to trade Jeff Petry for a bag of pucks. That's Edmonton stuff.
And that's the thing about this is that we saw Ryan McDonagh get traded to Nashville this past week for Grant Mishmash and Philippe Myers. And one, Petry puts up better offensive numbers than McDonagh, is slightly younger, but has more terms still. We can call it the split. Maybe McDonagh's a little bit better defensively, but Petry's still a very serviceable, very good top four defenseman right now. He's got the skills to make it work. And I honestly, I look at this and I go, there's a trade to be made here. Darren Dreger said this. Other people have said this, is that Jeff Petry is still well regarded across the NHL. And I think that for Kent Hughes gives him the cards, is that people know this is a good player. Whether or not you are trading for him, it's up to you to make it worth Kent Hughes' while, or he's going to hold on to it. We saw it with Ben Chiarot. We saw it with Artturi Lehkonen. We saw it with Brett Kulak. He's not going to trade a guy just because people want him. Make it worth his while. And I think that's important. And I'm glad the McDonagh trade happened first, because it gives a good starting baseline, is that you should get a guy who's on the fringe of making it to the next professional level, mid-tier prospect, another guy who is in the NHL or is an NHL-ready player. But I think with Petry, you're going to get more for that because he's a better player overall. You're going to get a step up from a Grant Mishmash, regardless of who that be. I'm not going to say if they trade him to Detroit that they're going to get a Joe Veleno or a Philip Zadina. That it would be the dream, I think, or some high-end picks or something like that. But I don't think that that's the case right away. But there's a market there. And I know people go, he had a bad year and this, that. Petry had a very good back half of the year under Martin St. Louis. And if he starts red hot this year, either the Canadiens are going to do one, two things. They're going to go, he's not on the table anymore. And maybe, they work something out with travel, family restrictions, whatnot into Canada, however that may be, because I don't know what the rules fully are anymore. Or
you can't trade him. Get here. You just need the ArriveCan app. That's it. That seems to be the only thing.
Takes 15 minutes to fill out. Really, really easy. Trust me. I did it this afternoon. But I also look at this and I go, or when he's playing really well, they trade him while his value's high to a team that might be struggling right off the bat and needs to make a splash, and you get even more for him. It's all the cards are in Kent Hughes' hands here. Hughes. Anyways, that rolled off the tongue
because his name is Hughes, right?
Yes. Regardless, the point is he holds the cards in a potential Jeff Petry trade. There are suitors for this team for him. There are good players to be had in this. And the thing is, I look at the Ben Chiarot trade. I look at the Artturi Lehkonen trade. I look at the Brett Kulak trade. I trust Kent Hughes to make the right call here and get what he's after. I'm not afraid of it being anything else right now. And I think that's something we haven't had in a little while, where Mark Bergevin could pull off a masterclass or it could be a disaster. We don't quite know. I think that Kent Hughes holds the right cards here, and it's not going to be as hard to trade Jeff Petry as we thought.
I think so too. And one of the things that I think is notable as well is that Ken Hughes did mention that the team is looking for cap relief, right? So I think the thing that he made really clear, though, was that they're looking for cap relief, but they're not desperate. They're not acting from a point of desperation. And, other GMs are going to smell blood, especially since Kent Hughes has been making some decent deals. We made a lot of people angry when we said that he fleeced Joe Sakic. He didn't. He made a good trade for Artturi Lehkonen. He that was a good trade for both teams. That was great. It was great GMing from both sides. But, he's still somebody who is making a decent enough name for himself in his first few moves. Like, people were looking at this and going like, this is a smart man, right? So you don't want to show a point of desperation or weakness or anything like that. Like, I think that's so, so, so important. Anyway, we talked a lot about this. Let's just mention one more thing about the Carey Price thing is that at this moment in time, there's still no news on Carey Price. They didn't seem to be too concerned, however, is the message I got from that press conference. And I don't know if it's just because they're tired of talking about it.
If there's no news, what are you going to say? Like, Carey Price has sprouted a third leg off of his kneecap due to the platelet treat. Like, no, he's on vacation with his wife and kids camping out in the backwoods in their giant trailer and stuff. Carey Price probably doesn't want to be talked to right now. And I'm sure Kent Hughes is trying to focus on the draft and then free agency literally next week, where he's got some negotiations ahead of him for a lot of different players. I'm not concerned about them not talking about Carey Price right now. I'll be concerned about it in August when that time rolls around. I don't care about that right now. There's the draft. There's free agency. There's so much other stuff going on that Carey Price right now is very low on my list of things that I'm actively worrying about. And I'm sure Kent Hughes is looking at this and going, I'm going to get asked about it. We'll have a press conference. Everybody loves a press conference, and that'll be that. When we know, we'll know at this point. Like, what are you going to do?
That's exactly it. And so we are going to be back tomorrow with another episode. You're going to see us in the same clothes. We're recording both of these on Tuesday night. So if something big happens, I will record a bonus episode, presumably in different clothes. And that's all coming up tomorrow. And don't forget, our big episode is going to be the Friday reaction to night 1 of the draft. And then we will go live at some point so you guys can join us for some draft talk. We're not sure when that's going to happen, but we will absolutely make sure to include you in our post-draft content. And that's all coming up. Just subscribe to Locked On Canadiens wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. You can also find us on Twitter at LO_Canadiens. I will be doing social media on our account during the draft and maybe after the draft as well, if any trades or anything go down. So make sure you follow us there. You can email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com with your thoughts. And you can also leave comments in the YouTube. I know some people have been asking some mailbag questions. I will take note and respond back to you. And also you can follow Scott at Scott Matla. He will be at the draft. You can follow me at the Active Stick. I will not be at the draft. And I will try my best, however, to say hi to anybody who's around. I promise I will try. I don't know if I'll be able to. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to listen tomorrow, where we will be talking Xavier Simoneau. We'll be talking about Colin White and whether he might be a fit in Montreal, and some other speculation potentially about maybe a hometown player. And that's speculation, but all of that's coming up tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening. Join us then.